Democratic Senator Martin Heinrich of New Mexico, who sits on the Senate Intelligence Committee, and yesterday called for a subpoena of the president's tax returns. You know, I've never heard people say, I guess before the Watergate investigation, you could say there was no evidence of a cover-up, and it turns out there was lots of evidence once you went and looked for it. How do these chairs of these intelligence committees, House and Senate, both Republicans, say there's nothing there and they haven't even investigated it yet? What do they mean by there's nothing there? Of course there's nothing there. You haven't gotten it yet. Your thoughts, Senator?
Oh, I think you're exactly right. We have to do an investigation, and I think the American people are expecting us to do that. When you step back from this issue, it's really about, you know, the fact that Russia had their thumb on the scales of an American election. That is something we should never accept. I don't think the Russians do this to help the Republicans or the Democrats. They always do it to help the Russians, and we should get to the bottom of it.
What do you think you can find out? I know you're making a heroic effort to get his tax returns. The president keeps saying he's being audited or whatever that cover is. Nobody really believes that. But as long as he keeps saying I'm being audited, I can't release my returns. How do you get them?
Well, in the Intelligence Committee, if we were to subpoena those tax returns, they would not be open to the public. I think this is a fully appropriate way to follow the money and see if there are issues here that are broader than what we know as yet. And as you said, until we actually do the work of investigating, we're not going to know what the answer is.
Well, he keeps saying things like, his defense is either really broad or very specific, the president. He either says, you know, I didn't talk to intelligence officials per se, although most intelligence people don't call themselves intelligence officials. They're in deeper, some kind of background, undercover. And secondly, he'll say things, I've never done any business in Russia, when we know he had the Miss Universe contest over there. So that can't be true. He's had, Paul Manafort certainly had dealings in Russia and in Ukraine. We know facts. And yet he has these sweeping denials. What do you make of that?
Well, I think if you look at the language that gets used oftentimes in the current debate, you hear words like infrequent or inconsequential. I think words mean things, and the fact that they're using qualifiers like that makes me want to get to the bottom of this.
Why do you think the White House has gone out there? Sean Spicer, Reince Priebus, they've gone out and talked to the FBI director, the CIA director, the chairs of the two intelligence committees, asking them to call the press in and tell them how there's nothing to it. What do you make of that, and why would they do something like that if there's nothing to hide?
I don't know why they're doing that, but I can tell you it's completely inappropriate. And the American people expect our intelligence committees to conduct fair and impartial investigations. And as soon as you have collusion between the chairs and the White House trying to spin news stories, or for that matter, selectively leak information while they're condemning leaks on the other hand, I think that's a real problem.
What do you think about the White House, the way they've been doing this? Spicer, the press secretary, he's got a tough job. We all know that. But he's out there telling people, I want to see all your phones, to make sure he's collecting the phones in a big pile and asking the people to let him examine the phones to see if they're leaking anything. And, of course, then he says, don't leak the fact I'm asking you for your phones to see if you're not leaking. And then we immediately read about the fact he's collected all the phones. This is a gang that can't shoot straight, even when it comes to cover-up.
There's a
or
little
investigations.
Bit of
What do you make of it?
There's a little bit of a Keystone Cops aspect to that. That said, you know, there's a lot of blaming the fire alarm instead of dealing with the fire. And I think as a member of the Intelligence Committee on the Senate side, I think we need to get to the bottom of this, get the facts, establish what they are, and if necessary, declassify them and share them with the American people so that we can address the root issues and not who's leaking what or when.
You are a great senator. You're one of the best people we've had on this show ever because you answer the questions. You do not do anything else but answer. And I like that. It's called question,
It's the downside
answer.
of being an engineer instead of an attorney, I think.
Thanks so much. Well, maybe that helps. You know how to get to the important parts. Anyway, thank you, Senator Martin Heinrich of New Mexico.